Welcome everyone. This is the October version of GPUG. I just want to thank Vehicle for supporting GPUG. Vehicle has been sponsoring us for many years now, and they are like key to making this thing possible. So thank you so much, Vehicle. I also want to thank Givelify. Givelify is the reason why we're being able to use this Zoom call right now. They provided this to us, and they're also recording this call, and we're going to be using that to upload to meetups at home. So thank you so much, Givelify, for all the support. About our presenter today. So Freek is speaking with us like all the way through from Belgium. So I know the time is kind of late over there. So it's double sacrificing there. I appreciate it. And so for anyone curious, Freek is co-owner and one of the main developers behind Spatie. If you worked with Laravel in a large project, you probably made use of some Spatie libraries there, because Spatie is behind a lot of high quality open source packages, mainly for Laravel. So it's pretty awesome that you're here speaking with us. That's really appreciated.
My pleasure.
All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Alfred, and
okay,
you can take control and begin your presentation.
Let me share mine. So for the people that don't know me, I'm Freek. I work at Spatie, like I've said. And something that we do at Spatie is we have like these monthly knowledge sharing sessions where we just say what we've learned. And in those sessions, we don't do like a formal presentation, but we just talk to one another, like what have we learned, so people can ask questions, but there's like no slides, it's just demoing stuff. And that's what I'm going to do now as well. I haven't prepared like a big presentation or something. I'm just going to walk you through what I've learned from Pest and how you can get started using it. Now, how did I myself get started using Pest? Well, a while ago, I created a course called Testing Laravel, and we were thinking about which tool should we use for this course. And we thought, PHPUnit is the big one. But on the other hand, we have also Pest, which seems pretty nice. And we decided to just record the entire course in 2 flavors. And I did the Pest part. So if you want to know more about that, that's at testinglaravel.com.
Sorry, Freek, someone is asking, how did Spatie get started?
How did Spatie get started? Well, that's a very long story, actually, but I'll give like a very short version of it. I didn't start Spatie. It was my colleague Willem, who designs everything at Spatie, who started it. We have known each other for a very long time. We played in a band together. And Willem started creating websites, and he was pretty good at it. But he liked doing the design part more, and he knew that I could program and that I was a little bit tired of my job at the time. So he asked me like, hey, don't you want to program together with me? Let's create sites. I was doing COBOL at the time. I said like, COBOL is of the past. Let's do the internet now. Let's create sites. And we asked another buddy of ours, Jeff, who is our like manager, accounting manager, and that's like the start of Spatie. So it's really it came up organically. So there's a little bit more to it, but I'm going to talk about Pest and not too much about Spatie. So I'm going to assume that you all already have some testing knowledge. So this isn't like a testing 101 talk. And I'm going to assume that most of you already have some familiarity with PHPUnit. So Pest is another way of running your tests. And let me start by already saying that this isn't like an entirely different solution. Pest is built upon PHPUnit. So behind the scenes, PHPUnit is still being used. In fact, and you're going to see that in a minute, Pest can run all PHPUnit tests as well. So what makes Pest different from PHPUnit? Well, it's a little bit like Laravel and other frameworks. Most of the frameworks are good, and PHPUnit is definitely also an awesome tool. But where Laravel and Pest make a difference is that they have a high focus on developer experience. So they really want to make things as easy as possible. And you can see here that a Pest test tries to be as small also as possible. This actually is a valid test in Pest. Everything is function-based and not class-based. There is excellent documentation for everything here. I should also say that it was created by Nuno. I don't know if his name is somewhere here. And I've been a fan of Pest for quite some time. I knew that Nuno was spending quite some time trying to make like the best and easiest Pest runner. Okay, let's maybe start by writing a Pest test. And I think most of you are like interested, like, how can I get started with that if you already have like a PHPUnit test suite? And you're now looking at the source code of my blog. It's a Laravel application. I'm here at a branch which points to the files, how they were some months ago before I started using Pest. So in this branch, I still have PHPUnit tests. And if everything is good, they run. They run a little bit slow on this new machine. I haven't figured out why these tests are so slow. In another project that I'm going to demo, all the tests will be fast. There's something here that is still slow, but don't mind that for now. So if you want to get started with Pest, the first thing that you need to do is to require it, of course, and I haven't done that before. So let's maybe go to the documentation here and just require Pest here. So with any luck, this is going to finish in a bit. Yeah, so the test suite gives green. Let's install Pest. And the internet gods are happy, I hope. Yep, there we are. And instead of using vendor bin PHPUnit to run the test, you can just use Pest to run the test. And if I run Pest now, then you're already going to see different output, but you see that all my current tests are still running because every PHPUnit test is also a valid Pest test. Okay, let's maybe start converting one of the tests to PHPUnit. Now, there's a little bit of setup that we need to do before we actually start rewriting one of the tests. And that is creating a Pest file. And a pest.php file is a file where you do some basic configuration. I don't know if you can see it, but this zoom thing is blocking my view. I can move it to there. Okay, and now I can see this. Okay, so in pest.php, we're going to do some configuration here. In most projects, there is like a test case where there are some common things being set up. And the most easy part is to just keep using that abstract test case. But say to Pest, hey, for all tests, you should use that one. So how you can do that is by using a uses function. This is provided by Pest, uses test case. And then you can say for which directories do we want to use that base test case. And I'm going to say just use it for everywhere for now. Okay, that's a little bit of setup that you need to do in order to make things work. That's also described in the docs. And in fact, if you install Pest in a fresh project that doesn't have Pest tested yet, then there's also an install command that you can run, which scaffolds this file, so you don't have to write it yourself. So, okay, here I have a test, a proof link action test. You shouldn't mind like the content of the test too much, but more the form. So we extend our test case. It's we have a setup method here. We have some functions here with an annotation. So those are tests. Yeah, this is like a very, very simple PHP unit test. Now, how can we convert this to a Pest test? Well, I've already said that Pest tests are function-based, so they aren't classes at all. So we can just remove like the class part. We're not going to need it anymore. This setup method, how you do that in Pest is you have a before each function, and you can just do the stuff in there. And what I really like about that before each thing is that you can't forget to do parent setup, because it will happen for you behind the scenes. So let's do this away. And then we have our tests here. So I can convert these to the Pest style thing. So I don't need the annotation anymore. This public function part, I can replace that with it, which is like the function that is used to signify a test. So I'm going to use it. At the end, we are going to close up the string. Then the actual test goes in a function here, like that. And now I'm just going to move over. Yeah, I can't do it with my keyboard, so I'm going to do it with my mouse. You can just move the content of your test in there, like that, like that. This can go away. We don't need these underscores anymore, so this can go away. Let's make these ones also go away, like that, maybe format it a little bit. And this is our Pest test. Yeah, there's a question.
So, just out of curiosity, is the name Pest because it's literally jest for PHP? Because this looks like a jest test.
Yeah, indeed. So it's indeed jest, but then with a P for PHPUnit. Yeah. So for people that don't know, Jest is like a test runner created by the good folks at Facebook. It's a JavaScript test runner, and they use basically this syntax. So everything is basically inspired by how they do things in Jest. I know that before Nuno started work on this, he did some JavaScript work, and yeah, he saw that like in Jest things were set up much easier than in PHPUnit, and that was like his inspiration to create the Pest tool. Okay, let's try to run this test. I'm just going to use PHP Storm here. So you can see here that my test passes. So this one passed and this one passed as well. So this is basically how you can get started using Pest in a project that already has PHP unit tests. You can just mix and match these tests. A question that often comes is like, is this allowed? Like, I'm in a function, can I just use this here and set something on there? And yes, you can. And you can of course use it in these tests as well. And you even have auto completion on these things. So you can see that I can click through things. I have auto completion, and that works through the Pest plugin, and I think there's a page here as well. So Pest, there's an IDE plugin for PHP Storm, VS Code, and I don't know what this is actually. So that PHP Storm actually understands how this test is structured. If you open up the structure dialog, then you can see that PHP Storm actually knows that these are two tests in there. If I search from somewhere the action, then you can see that the test shows up here. So if I enter here, I go to that test. There's like little arrows here that you can use to run these tests. All to say that the IDE integration of this tool is pretty good. I should also say a little bit on the naming of it here. What does that do? Well, it's of course it marks the test, but in the description of the test, it will actually add it to it. So if I run this test now, we'll see here it will not send a mail. So if you use it, you don't have to have it in your description, and this reads also incredibly well. If you have a this is wrongly formatted, the bracket should be away. If you have like a test name that doesn't really match with it, then you can use test, which is like basically the same function with another name. So this is how you can use these tests. Let's see. I think that's everything that I wanted to show you in this project. So how you can get started. There's maybe one thing more. You can see here that we have assertion methods, and this is like the default way in a PHPUnit test suite to make sure that everything is as you expect it to be. And you can keep on doing that. You even get auto completion here for all the things, so that just works. But the preferred way on how to do it in a Pest suite is by writing an expectation, and this is how it works. So you always start with a function expect. I'm already a little bit tired. So let me do it below here. So I'm going to expect that the submitted link status, and here I can say what kind of expectation I want to have. And I would want to say it is equal to this one, like that. And I don't know why I now didn't get any auto-completion. That's a little bit strange. Expect value to be to equal. Here's to equal. Did I do something wrong here? Expect to equal. Yeah, now I do get auto completion. I haven't noticed it. I'm a little bit tired, but maybe I made a typo. But this is like the preferred way to do it. And notice how much easier this reads. It's just English. Expect to equal that. I feel like with assert equals, where I think if you have a little bit of experience, then you know that the expected part is always first. But if you're any bit like me, then sometimes you still make the mistake of doing it like this. Your test will still pass, but you'll get a strange error message when it doesn't pass. But with this, you're not as likely to make that mistake because it's just English. This is how you would tell it. So this is like very much the preferred way to do this. And you basically have a lot of things that you can tack on here. Let's head back to the documentation, to the expectation API. These are all available expectations. So most of the PHPUnit ones are there, and it's very easy to add a custom expectation. That's maybe a custom expectation is maybe the next thing that that I can show you. Again, if there are any questions, just let me know. Okay, let's go to the.
Sorry, Freek, I had a question.
Yeah,
just confused about if with the Laravel application out of the box, if you use PHPUnit, you extend Laravel's test case, and it's the setup in that test case that bootstraps the application. Yeah. But you just ripped out the whole class. So how does that Pest test now know to bootstrap Laravel's application? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's it right there. Okay.
Yeah. So this is as a user, you just have to do this so that Pest knows, hey, for every test, you should use this test case.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what that does. That makes sense.
What happens behind the scenes, and this is a little bit of the secret sauce, maybe you don't want to know that, is that a class will dynamically be made with the content of your test, a PHPUnit class. The big string will be made, that will be evolved, and then it will run that test. So that's a little bit how it works internally. But I don't want to dive too deep into that. As a user, you only should know this is how you can hint it. If I go to my other project here, I got a bigger example of that. We're now in another project. Oh, I should remove, let's see, this can be removed. We're now in another project testing Laravel block Pest. This is the Laravel application that I'm using in the testing Laravel course to explain things. So I have some nice examples here. And if we go to the Pest test here, you can see that it's a little bit more fleshed out. Here you can see that we have a test case that we're going to use, creates test application, refresh database. We're going to use that for our tests that are in the unit and the feature directories, but we're going to use the dusk test case for things that are in the browser. So this is that part of the configuration. And if you have like a general setup method in PHPUnit, you can replace that with just stacking on a before each, and this will be executed before each test in these ones. I've told you about custom expectations. I've just told you about expectations. And yeah, Pest already has this big list, but you can easily extend it if you want. And here is already a custom expectation, but this is not the one that I wanted to show you, but yeah, what the heck, I'm going to use it anyway. So how you can extend it is just by calling extend on expect, give the name, and then what it should do. And you can pass it parameters as well. So it's a little bit like macroable in Laravel. And if I now go to a test here, then I can just do my custom expectation and just pass it the things here. And when I click it here, yeah, then you also go to a little bit of the secret sauce. I'm going to explain that in a bit. So you even get like type hinting for the things that you extend here. So if I have like another one here, like hello user group, like that, and I go here, then I've got auto completion for this one. And I think this is very, very nice. Now, how does that work behind the scenes, that auto completion? Well, it's actually pretty simple. It works through the Pest plugin that I've installed. And what that Pest plugin does is when I save this file, it will hunt down all extents here, and it will actually write a file in the vendor directory expectation. And here, all those definitions are listed. and PHP Storm will index that as well. And that's how you get auto-completion for your custom expectations, which I think is pretty neat. Let's maybe show something else. Yeah, you know, in PHPUnit, I'm just going to misuse this test. If you want to expect that an expectation will be thrown, this is the way you do it, right? You expect expectation, and here you give it the or the exception, sorry. And here you give it the expectation, and then you just run the code that throws an exception. And what I really don't like is that you need to set this first and then run it. It's not in like a chronological order. How do you do that in Pest? Let me show it to you. I have an example for that as well. Let me just restore this. Go to the example here. So this is how you do that in Pest. So instead of setting a this expect exception yourself here, you can just tack on throws and then whatever you expect. And then this test will only pass if this whole thing will throw that exception, which I think is pretty neat to do it that way. As a second parameter, you can also give it an exception message. And I believe it will also work. It will also pass if you give it the message here. So it's really flexible. And it's like little details like this that make Pest very pleasant to use, because there's like multiple ways to do this. Let's maybe do another one. You probably also know data sets in PHPUnit. So a data set is a function that returns some parameters that should be used for another test. So you can use one test for multiple cases. And yeah, I don't have like, maybe I have an example in the Freek tests, Freek.dev tests. Let me see. Data sets. No, I haven't a data set here, but I hope that most of you will know this. How do you do this in Pest? Well, it's much more simple. Instead of having like a different function with a data set, you can just tack on with and just give your cases here. And these values, they will be passed to the test function here. So it's, yeah, much less verbose. It's just a single thing here. Now, something that I don't have an example of, but I still want to showcase that. Where is it? Data sets here, is that you can also share data sets. So you can see here, we have that data set that I have just shown you where the values are there, but you can also just create a data set with the data set function. And then you can just pass in the name of your data set to that width, and then these values will be used, which is a pretty nice way if you have like a certain set of data that you want to use for different tests, and you can just name your data set and do it this way, which, yeah, I think is pretty nice. Let's maybe do one more thing. Maybe a higher order test. That's also a good one. I think there's one here. Yeah. Oh, no, this isn't it. Here. Ah, yeah, here it is. So take a look at this here. So normally a test has like a function and you put stuff in there, right? So if this get assert C block, so that would be like the normal way to do it. So you have to pass in a closure. But if you just have things that you can tack on this, then you can just tag it on the it thing. So making it even more more small. So this is actually a working test. If I would run this, let's try to run it. Yeah, it can render the homepage that that works. And I'm not tricking you. If I do something else here and I run this test here, then it will fail. And I think this is like a pretty awesome way to write smallish tests. Now, something that also works out of the box with Pest is, and I don't know if there's like a dedicated page for that, is test coverage. So test coverage, probably it works in PHPUnit as well. But with Pest, I didn't have any hiccups. So if you just add that coverage flag, then you're just going to get yeah, a nice little report with how much lines of code are being tested. And in PHP Storm, there's even a very nice integration. You can just run tests, the best ones, with coverage. And if you do it that way, then you just get like your coverage results in line here. So I can just open up the project here and I can see there's no test that hits this, but there are tests that hit this part of the code, but not for this if. So I think this is really nice. You can do this with PHPUnit unit as well. This integration works there too, but it's pretty nice to see that Pest is also very mature and that they can do this out of the box as well. Let's see if there's something else that I want to cover. I think I mostly got it. Maybe one more little thing. Let me just hide the coverage here. If I can see, yeah, here it is. So in a PHPUnit tests, you probably will use like the Laravel functions like this, like assert, yeah, database has or database count, and you should chain off that of this, which will still work. But if you prefer this, you could also use the function variants. So all of the functions that are available on this that Laravel provides are also available as standalone functions that are provided by Pest. If I open this up, then you can see that I've imported this one from Pest. And yeah, if you just like not using this at all for your tests, then you can just import those functions as well. I think another one that you probably use a lot are like post and get. And if everything is good, yeah, I can just import post and that will do the very same thing. And you can just chain on whatever assertion that you like there. Okay, I think you have a good feeling like what you can do with Pest. I'm a really big fan of it, really, because it shares that thing with Laravel that we're trying to make it as easy as possible to do things. People often say, yeah, Pest doesn't do anything really more than what you can already do with PHPUnit, and that's true. But it does it in, I think, a nicer way. So if this like resonates with you, like I can like this clean way of writing this, then you can do it. But if you prefer PHPUnit, that's fine as well. The latest few weeks, some members of the Pest team, I think for the most part, Luke, have sent PRs to Laravel so that every scaffolding that is in Laravel that is available for PHPUnit is now also has Pest variants. So you can easily scaffold things with Pest as well. I think also the Laravel installer has a flag, Pest, that if you use it, you're not going to get the PHPUnit test by default, but the Pest tests. So you can, get started with it really easily. If you want to, try it out, then I would say just try to write a couple of tests with it and see how it feels for you. Discuss it a little bit with your team, what you like about it, what don't you like about it. I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer here. It is just what you prefer. Of course, PHPUnit is like the most well-known and most used, but I think that Pest will grow in the future because it's a joy to use. It is super stable. Like I've said, it's built on top of PHPUnit. It's not something different. So I have yet to hit my first bug in Pest. Yeah, that is basically everything that I wanted to say about this. I actually said kind of the same things I said to my own team. So yeah, if you have any questions, now is probably a good time to ask them.
I have one. So as someone who loves Jest, so this is kind of like a dream come true. There's a lot of things that I wish PHPUnit had that now is becoming a reality, right?
Yeah.
I see that Pest is also improving on things that I think Jest is lacking, like the data set thing that you demonstrated. I think it works better than how you would do a data set in Jest with the .each approach. But one of the things that I really like in Jest that I didn't see today is the describe function. Do you know if there are plans to have the describe function?
Remind me again of what the describe function is.
So let's say so the describe function is kind of how you make like a mini section of your test. So I'm writing tests for, let's say, the main page, and I could say describe as an admin when I join that page. So it like test, I can see whatever. So like inside of the describe block of as an admin, I'm going to have a bunch of little tests of what happens in that page as an administrator, right? It's kind of like a function that is just there to group tests together.
Yeah. Well, there are options for grouping. You can just tack on group and give the name. Is that what you're looking for? And then you can just execute it with group and give it the names.
But like in this example over there, it looks like it's more like grouping a way of like integration, feature, unit, browser tests, right? Mm-hmm. But like it doesn't really align with the idea of the describe block, where kind of like I could have a describe block for like if the user does not have enough money. Now I'm gonna have a series of tests for that case, right?
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, that isn't now available out of the box, but I think it's an interesting idea. I'll look it up and I'll ask the people in the Pest group if we can do something with that idea. There's a plan to release a 2.0 version of Pest, and we're looking for like cool features to add there. So it might end up in Pest 2.0.
Fingers crossed. That's awesome.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. There's maybe one more thing that I want to show. It's a very simple thing. So probably in PHPUnit, you have like in a test file, you might have tests and then some helper functions, some protected helper functions or something. How do you do that in Pest? Well, in Pest, you just define your helper functions in the pest.php file. You can see here that I have a login function here. I just use that function in my test, and that's how you can just make reusable little functions. That's the only thing that I want to say more. That you can do. You can just create any function you want here.
Just a general question, Freek.
Yeah.
You've got experience with a lot, PHP unit sort of proper, and Pest now. If you were consulting with someone, is there any situation where you would say maybe Pest isn't quite the best decision, maybe stick with native PHP unit, or vice versa, that you can think of where undeniably one is better than the other? Or
yeah, I think if you already like in a big project where you already use PHP unit, I would probably not convert it to Pest anymore, for like, yeah, a bigger project. And I think for new projects where there are like no tests at all, I think it's just important to talk with your team and to see what kind of people are going to work on this. I think on a technical level, there's really no drawbacks for using Pests. I think it's more like a personal preference.
Yeah, like one of the things I saw there was with an established project, you could bring it in and start using it and not even initially write any Pest tests, correct?
Yeah,
And so what's really appealing about that is you could bring it in and then only incrementally add it in places that you want it to as well, right? So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah, that's very nice.
Personally, I would, if you're going to bring it in incrementally, you should, I think, have like at least a plan of at some point converting it all. I think just leaving it with in two different syntaxes, that is not going to be as nice. It will work technically, but it won't be very nice, I think.
Yeah, that's a classic problem too, of course.
Yeah.
And another question as well, because of the way Pest works, right? With like running an eval over like a big string of PHP unit tests.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any like significant like overhead time to your tests? Like if you had like just PHP unit?
It is a tiny bit slower. Oh, wait, my lights have gone out. Yeah, it's 2:00 here, and then all the lights go out automatically in the house.
Oh, wow.
So I'll try to keep it on to while I answer the questions. So there's a little bit of a slowdown, but it really isn't noticeable. It's like in the milliseconds world.
That's beautiful. Awesome. Does anyone have any other questions? Either about Pest
or something else. Let me turn on my lights again. Yeah, like that.
All right.
I never given a talk until 2 a.m. So.
Oh, I see Lucas coming up. No. All right. Yeah. So this honestly, like, Freek, this was amazing. Like I didn't know about Pest until today, and it blew my mind. I really want to start using it.
Cool. Yeah, you should give all your compliments to Nuno and a couple of people that he works with, because he worked really hard on polishing these things. I should also say, like, parallel testing also works in Pest. So yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. Let me end a little bit on a personal note. I still remember when Nuno was saying like, "Hey, I'm going to do this." We were at Laracon the day after the conference ended, and we were like strolling around in Central Parks. And I'm Freek, I have this idea. Wouldn't that be cool? And we started talking about how such a thing could look like. And yeah, when he flew back from the United States to France, where he was living there, he coded up like the initial version of Pest on the plane. So I think that's a pretty cool origin story there.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, so yeah, thank you so much, Freek. Really appreciated that.